Welcome to On the Bauble podcast, episode 22. I'm your host, Tsubasa J. Ueda, and with me is my co-host, Yuki Lee Bender. Today we're going to be going over our first 2 weeks of the PQ season and how we've been doing, as well as the battle-hardened... Where is this? New Jersey.
I think you just say we'll talk about some of the metagame and events that have happened around the world or something.
Okay, whatever. It's okay. Yeah, we just go with this.
Okay.
Yeah. Then how's your week been, Yuki?
So I guess it's been 2 weeks since we last recorded. Mostly been during the week. I've mostly been working a little bit of Armory, and then playing ProQuests. I played one each weekend. Both of them were local ones, and those I'm not sure. I'm thinking those are probably the only two I'm going to play. A bunch of people are traveling down to Kitsap, just outside of Seattle, to go to some more, but I'm not sure I'm going to do that. I'm already details for the Pro Tour came out, and I should be locked on limited elo, so I'm just sort of taking a bit of a easy season this time, just like playing the locals and all that.
Yeah, and you still win a gold foil.
Yes. Should I go into my events, or do you want to talk about anything that you did?
No, I don't think I did anything special. I was away last weekend. The reason we didn't record last weekend was because I was at the World Series of Poker in Calgary. I was just playing poker nonstop, so didn't have time to record. But yeah, I think we can just start off with your PQs.
Right. So my first PQ was on Iyslander. I played Iyslander for both of them. It was a super diverse metagame. We actually had a lot of Lexi. There was 6 Lexis as the most represented hero, and then 3 ofs of a bunch of others, like 3 Dash, 3 Phi, 3 Dory, and a bunch of 2 ofs. Like we had almost every hero represented. And really, really diverse field, which I think is going to be kind of a common thread amongst all of these PQs, is that there's just a ton of heroes being played. I also played almost a different hero every round. I think I played against 2 Lexis, an Arachne, a Dory, and a Dash in Swiss, and I went 5-0 in Swiss. And then I played against a Kino and a Dromai in top 8, and then I split finals with Ian Smith, who came in second at Canadian Nationals this year, and he was playing on Phi. And we just decided to do a prize split. I ended up getting gold foil. Maybe I won't tell you what it is. It's on our YouTube channel. There's a gold foil reveal on our YouTube channel, and you can check out that short if you want to see what gold foil I opened. But it's a good one. I'm pretty excited.
Oh, that was a good plug to the YouTube channel.
And then week 1, you also played a PQ, didn't you? Even though you were away in Calgary for poker.
Yeah, so while I was in Calgary, I took one of the Saturdays off just to go play a PQ there, and I went to Calgary's Ogre's Den Gaming Club for their ProQuest there. I don't have the breakdown of what heroes were there, but from me just glancing over, it was a very diverse meta. There was a couple of Iyslander, lots of Dromai, lots of Bravo. We had a Viserai, a couple of Kanos, just like a full range of heroes as well. And to my surprise, I was one of the only 2 Phis in the room, which was somewhat surprising to me. I guess, I don't know how to start this. I didn't top 8 this event. I was pretty upset with myself. One of the rounds, how do I start this story, Yuki?
Well, how did the round start?
That's a good way to start it. Well, either way, what happened was on my 3rd round of Swiss, I'm playing against a Briar, and I play my first couple of turns very regularly, and I go to activate my Phi on my 3rd turn of the game. And then I say, activate Phi, pitching a blue, use 1 resource because I have 2 Draconic Chain Links. And I look through my graveyard, and I noticed there's no Phoenix Flame in there.
I didn't realize that you hadn't even noticed until like a few turns in. I thought you noticed like right away.
No, there just wasn't a place where I would have wanted to activate my Phoenix Flame anyways. It was either like I blocked out, or like I played East Strike instead, or Command and Conquer instead. And then just it was like turn 3 when I first activated it. And before it too, on turn 2, I drew a Phoenix Flame, and I ended up bottom decking it with East Strike. And I was like, man, I'm so unlucky for drawing Phoenix Flame so early in the game. on turn 3 I realized, oh, it's because there's 2 in my deck, not 1. And I was upset. I was visibly upset for the good next half hour, because then like I knew I was missing top 8 after that.
Yeah, it's definitely a rough way to miss top 8. Somebody on my first PQ, very good player, actually came in ninth at Nationals, I believe. Also did the same thing, forgot his Phoenix Flame. I think he noticed it a little bit earlier than you, but it was still too late for him as well. So if you're playing Fi, make sure you don't forget your Phoenix Flame. I might just start with it face up next to your hero before you even present, like when you're doing your equipment kind of thing. I think that would be fine.
Yes, I agree with you. Please, please just put it right in front of Fi or something when you're sideboarding. It's just, I'd rather play one more card in my deck accidentally than to not have it in the graveyard. It's such a big blunder.
Yeah, it can really add up over the course of the game. It's just a lot of damage.
Well, after that, I guess let's move on to the next speak. Oh, actually, before I move on, sorry, I actually did get the deck list for the winning player from this PQ. The player that won on this event was a Viserai. Unfortunately, I was too tilted and left the venue before top 8 started, so I did not watch any of the games there. Andrew Padlesky won on Viserai, and it's something that did surprise me that Viserai actually won this event.
Yeah, that is a little surprising. We haven't heard much about Viserai, and I think that in general he's kind of fallen out of favor. Like people were pretty hot on him leading up to Leal, and then since Prism has rotated out, he's really kind of fallen off the map.
And from what he's told me, this deck is like slanted towards beating aggressive decks and very bad against Guardians. And from his tournament report, he was like, yeah, my deck is really bad against Guardians, but I didn't play any of them, so I ended up 9-0ing this event.
Yeah, I'm taking a look through. It looks like fairly standard Viserai, a lot of what you'd expect. 9 mobs guys, has blue lead the charge. He has some this rounds on me, which makes a lot of sense. I think that's pretty good. Blue, block 3, and Viserai. Only 1 Runic Reclamation, a little bit surprising. Good card against Iyslander and Briar, but I guess Briar's not so represented. Not much in terms of setup. He does have like 3 read the rune. No, 1 read the runes only. So maybe just as a tutor target for Become the Arknight would be my best guess there. I guess the anti-aggro tools is he has 3 Command and Conquer, 3 Consuming Volition. So some disruptive on hits there. So yeah, just pretty standard take on Viserai.
And all of these deck lists that we're going to be talking about more in detail would be posted up on the description page on the Spotify or on YouTube as well. So if you guys are interested, just go down to the comment section or the description page, and you should be able to click on all the links. It should be all on FabDB as well. You want to just move right on to the next ProQuest?
Yeah, so I ran it back with Iyslander. I guess I didn't talk about the Iyslander deck that I played. It was pretty much Michael Hamilton's Worlds list. I believe I cut a blue Brother in Arms, a blue Polar Blast, and a Null Rune Hood, since there really isn't very many Wizard players in our locals besides me, but I don't have to play against myself, obviously. So I cut those for 2 Command and Conquers and a third Hypothermia. I think the third Hypothermia is pretty common these days, with Dash being more represented. It's just really, really good card against her. And yeah, I just wanted the Command and Conquers because we had so much Lexi and Dromai, and I was expecting that, and they put in work for me in the first event. But fast forward to the second week's event, the meta shifted a little bit. There was actually only 1 Lexi. I think that there was actually a bit of a snowstorm, and some of the Lexi players couldn't make it over. So there was a lot less Lexi and also less Dromai, only 1 Dromai today. And it was just like super spread out. We had the most represented hero is Fi on 3. There was 3 Iyslander, 3 Dories, and everything else was like 1 or 2 ofs. Again, super diverse field. This one was only a 23 player event, so it was a little bit smaller.
What's pretty interesting though was that this is the Infinity Pro Quest at Infinity Cards and Collectibles. I ended up judging this event, so I wasn't playing in it. The reason why there's one less Dromai is because the Dromai, our local Dromai player, he knew that this field was gonna be there's gonna be more Phis in this event because one of our friends, Mateo, was gonna be playing Phi for sure, and he knew about this, and he's like, I don't want to be playing in a Phi heavy field, so he ended up moving away from Dromai for this one event. And then the reason why Lexis aren't there was because, as Yuki said, the snowstorm, which I have a story about that for the next PQ I talk about. But do you want to go into the top eight? Or actually, how did your Swiss rounds go for this one?
Yeah, I went 3-2 in Swiss, which was enough to top eight. I lost in third and fifth round, and it was a smallish event. I lost to a Dory player where I think I made a couple poor decisions. I also got really blown out. There was like a really good sequence on his part, but with the Spoils of War that I blocked for 8 because my hand really didn't do very much, and then he Command and Conquered, and I had no way to block it out. So I just had to eat it and lose my Arsenal, and then Arsenal the card in my hand, which was pretty brutal. So I just felt really behind from there. And then I kind of gambled on, I had him under Channel Lake Frigid with no Arsenal. And I think he came in with, he had like Go Again and Steelblade Supremacy on his Dawnblade. And I chose not to block with it. I would have had to give my Tunic, my gloves, and a 3 block when I had like a really good hand to come back at him with. And I was just like hoping that, well, he has to draw a yellow or a blue off the top to be able to swing the Dawnblade again. Maybe I just gamble on it. And it definitely wasn't the right choice. It went to 7, then he swung, and then I had to block anyways for 5. So he didn't get the counter. I didn't go to 2, and I was just too far behind to catch up. And I think I should have just not tried to fuse my Aether Ice Vein, not try to preserve the card, and then I could just like keep my Channel Lake around, do Aether Ice Vein for 5, and try and ship them down that way. So a little bit disappointing. In Swiss, I lost to a Phi, our friend Mateo, in the very last round. He drew all of his Art of Wars. I drew none of my Channel Lake Frigids. I didn't see any of my Insidious Chills either until I was very low. And yeah, pretty hard to win when Phi gets to hit you for 25. And yeah. So then in top 8, I play Mateo again. I think I went first in Swiss, and then he went first in top 8, and the game was like basically the same thing. It might have been even worse. Not only did I not really draw my disruption, but I also didn't draw reds a number of hands. So I just like had these blues, but not like the Channel like Frigid blue. It's just like, I think I had a Blizzard when he had like a Belittle, and he revealed a blue to search for Minnowism. Like I think he pitched a blue, revealed a blue, searched for a blue Minnowism, and then played Art of War. And I'm like, my Blizzard doesn't really do anything. To his credit, he really played around it. He didn't swing the Ember Blade, so he played around my Blizzard and ultimately got to get in with Assault the Wounds for 9 off of Lynx or something like that. But yeah, I don't know. Sometimes you don't win.
It's more of a backstory to this. It's not even a backstory. Just during that event, Yuki was like pretty upset. She lost to Mateo in the last round, like the way she did, and then the run back happened right away, and then Yuki just got. You can just visibly see that Yuki was just like not having it, and then obviously she left. But then we were supposed to like pick up some cards from you before you left for us to go to the next PQ, but we
Oops.
completely forgot. And then like you left, so we're just like, oh wait, we forgot to get cards from Yuki, but she's so tilted. I don't think we can even get the cards from her right now.
Oh no, didn't realize.
It's all good. It's all good. I ended up having like a bunch of extra cards in my bag, so we ended up making things work. Yuki, you left right after top 8, so you didn't really watch the other games. I was judging for the rest of that tournament, obviously, so I can talk about that. The top 8, before we move on, the top 8, we have 3 Dories, 1 Iyslander, which was yourself, the Phi, which was Mateo, and a Rhinar and Oldhim. And last but not least, And Azalea made top 8 in this Pro Quest.
Yeah, definitely cool to see someone rocking Azalea. I don't think we have the deck list, but it looked very similar to Levi's list that he top forward battle hardened with. It looked like a similar base with maybe a few tweaks.
Yeah, I actually do have the deck list. It's not on FabDB, but by the time I post this video on YouTube and Spotify, I will just transpose it onto FabDB and post it there. I actually have all the deck lists from this event. I also have the winners list, which was Clay, who was on Rhinar. Clay made.
He made top 8 at nationals. I played him in quarters, I believe. Yeah, I played him in quarters.
You knocked him out.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, Clay made top 8 at Canadian Nat, so he's a very strong player. And beat Eric from Sparka Genius, and he was on Oldhim. All I have to say about Eric is, please, Eric, you do not play Oldhim when I'm judging. I don't. I can't. Just please play something with that's a little bit faster.
All right. So congrats to Clay on Reinhardt there. And then immediately after this event, Jay, Mateo, and a couple other locals ended up driving to Kelowna, which is about 3.5 hour drive from there, depends a bit on the weather, through the mountain passes. Remember how like people didn't come because there was a snowstorm while they were driving the same road that those people would have had to take, I guess like a little bit later on in the day, but same road.
It's funny story. It was still storming when we were going through that road.
Exciting. Yeah. Anybody who hasn't been on the Coquihalla, it is quite the drive in the winter, or it can be. It really depends on the weather, but you're going through like a high elevation mountain pass. There's lots of elevation changes, and it's a tricky road to drive. You need winter tires to go on it.
Yes, definitely winter tires to go on it. If you don't have winter tires, do not even attempt. It's very dangerous. There's no lights. You won't be able to see anything. And
It's actually illegal if you don't have winter tires. Yeah.
yeah, it is illegal if you don't have winter tires. But I ended up making that drive anyways because I wanted another PQ and I wanted to try and win one. Me, Mateo, Lucas, Danny, 4 of us drove down to Kelowna. At the Orchard City Games Pro Quest, there were 32 players. We have the breakdown here. There were a lot of Dromais in this field. There were 6 Dromais. The other most represented deck was 4 Fies and 4 Lexis and 4 Briars. And for this event, I was playing a very stock Fi list. And because you left, Yuki, Mateo didn't end up playing Fi. We actually borrowed Eric's whole Oldhim deck and gave it to Mateo to play to try it out.
What did you need from me though? Wasn't it just one command and conquer?
It was like a command and conquer, and that's all you got. No, not that's all you got. What is that card called? The blue card. This round's on me.
Didn't I give this rounds on me to him? I'm so confused. Anyways.
No, because you gave him a copy of This Round's on Me, but he was using my copies of This Round's on Me.
Gotcha. Okay.
So
Did
then,
not realize.
So when I needed to play This Round's on Me, he didn't have This Round's on Me.
Okay. Fair enough. I'm seeing what happened here.
Yeah. So either way, but Mateo ends up playing Oldhim and then draws like the first 2 rounds or something.
Yeah. Oldham's a tough deck to play if you don't have reps on it and you're not an especially fast player. It's something that you might want to practice a little bit before you take to ProQuest.
Yeah. And then he was just like, "Yep, this was a mistake."
Yeah, fair enough.
But I'm just gonna go into it. I ended up going 4-0 in the first 4 rounds, and on my 5th round, I lost to the Fi Mirror. The top 8 looked like 3 Fis, one of it being myself, 2 Dromais, one of it being the other guy that we went to Kelowna with, which was Lucas. We had 1 Oldhim, 1 Viserai, and 1 Lexi. How do I want to start the story?
How'd top 8 go for you, Jay?
So, even before that, my best matchup as Fi is Dromai. I wanted to play Dromai every single round if possible.
Yeah, probably. It's got to be one of your best matchups. It's very favored for Fi. I don't know if it's the most favored. Probably. Maybe like Arachne. I don't know. Anyways, Dromai's a very good matchup for Fi.
Dromai is better than Arachne, because Arachne can still block.
Okay, fair enough.
Well, Lucas is a good player, and he didn't really give me like free turns. But so my first round of top eight, I did win against the mirror, the Phi mirror, and it wasn't that close of a game. I ended up just like taking over the game with more mask and momentum triggers. But the second round, so in top four, I play against Lucas. He's on Dromai, and he was like saying like, okay, at least I top forward, right? He was just like already accepting his defeat because he didn't think he can beat me. And I was like, no, Lucas. Sometimes Phi can brick. It doesn't happen that often, but there's like a 10% chance this happens and I can still lose. And he was saying that no, that's just never gonna happen. Well, now that you know that I'm talking about this, that's what happened. On my first hand, I ended up drawing two Art of Wars and two blocks. One of it being a blue Minnowism, so the Art of War didn't buff the defense on that either. And Lucas ended up attacking me for like a 4 Ravenous Rebel, then a 8 or something like that. I don't know, some big numbers. I couldn't block it. I leaked like 5 damage, and I had to use an Art of War just to try and get out of it. And when I drew up, my next hand didn't have any starters. So what ended up happening was I had to go Blaze Headlong, crack my Snapdragon Scalers, and then continue my turn like regular. So on my first turn, I had to use my Snapdragon Scalers on a non-snatch card, which is just awful. And then I had one regular turn after that. And then on the turn after it, the hand I draw up to is Snatch, 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 and Sink Billow. And I was like, wow, this hand's bad. And I ended up using the Sink Below on his Kyloria so he doesn't get the draw. And I bottom deck my Snatch, and I draw yellow Salt the Wounds. So my hand currently is Snatch, Snatch, Salt the Wounds, and I have a yellow Belittle in my arsenal.
Oh boy.
And right after he attacks with his Kyloria, he plays Viserai. And now he has 3 dragons on board, which is typically good for the 5 player because then we get a draw off of the Mask of Momentum and really like punish his dragons. But with this exact hand, I can't kill Viserai, I can't kill Kyloria, I can't kill Chromai. And my Phoenix Flame, I can't activate Phi to grab Phoenix Flame to kill the Viserai for free, which is what we are supposed to do. What ended up happening was the best line of play that I found was to block the Viserai for 2 with Snatch, take 7 from Viserai, and then barely clear all his dragon the next turn by like using belittles and snatches, and then draw 2 cards off the snatch and momentum trigger, and then arsenal a card, keep 1 card in hand, and draw 3 cards. And I was just so far behind at this point. Like Lucas has like 25 health over me, and the game was over.
Sometimes when you don't get to play the game, it can be pretty hard to win.
Yes.
One thing I do want to mention is that I think a good heuristic in this case, like it sounded like the sink below is pretty okay because you got to sink the Kylori and it lets you dig into a card that still didn't help you. But I think in general, you probably don't want to be playing sinks into Dromai just because Dromai is kind of trying to set up a board and you want to like really be able to pressure Dromai. And sometimes like if you have poppers as well, like it can be awkward if you have a sink below, but then like you also have a popper and you want to pop and then you just like have the sink below that's kind of stuck in your hand. So just as like I've found this for like pretty much every hero, I think, that you generally want to take D-Reacts out against Dromai. So definitely just one thing to mention for sideboarding.
Okay. I ended up playing 2 sinks in the matchup because I know that when I'm playing against exactly Lucas, he doesn't put dragons on the board. So when he does put 1 dragon, it's gotta be the 1 Kyloria. And he doesn't put any Ash Wings on the board for you to attack. What is that card called? Miraging Metamorph?
Mm-hmm.
So like his plan is to go Ravenous Rabble for red Miraging Metamorph. Or like just basically his plan is to attack you with like just big red instead of playing dragons, because just that's like a
Right.
better way of pushing damage against Fi and like trying to race Fi instead, which is why I ended up putting in two sinks over. I didn't put all three in because well, the exact reason you're saying. And I
Yeah.
don't have the erase face in my deck, so I don't have a popper number 5 and 6.
Fair enough. Yeah. I think in general, yeah, if you know they're on the red line deck, the sinks make a lot more sense. Like the more red line aggressive deck, and then if they're on the more dragon focused deck, sinks are actively pretty bad.
Yeah,
But
I
yeah,
think
that's
so
fair.
too.
You do know what he's on, so that makes sense.
Yeah, that's the reason why I had sinks in. It's maybe it wasn't. Maybe it still was better to play this rounds on me or something. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I'm not sure.
I can play energy potion instead.
No, you definitely don't want energy potion because Felurian can
So
stand it. This round's on me is reasonable. It's just a bit blue. It's fine.
exactly. So like, but I decided to go with sink pillows because I know if I get to block like ravenous rabble, it's a pretty good plus for me. I get an extra turn, and if I get an extra turn, and like Dromai never wins.
Fair enough.
Either way, like that the whole sideboard thing is it is done now, but I made a choice, and honestly, if that card was this rounds on me, I would have like molded even harder.
Yeah, fair enough.
Oh yeah.
All right. You want to talk about sort of like how ProQuests have been looking overall, like dig into some of the data and kind of some of the takeaways for what's been doing well?
Yeah, let's do that. So we have week one data that just got posted on the Fab TCG website. You can check it out over there. Is there a hero you wanted to talk about first?
So the hero that we won't go into huge detail since I know that this has been out for a while now, but the big takeaways is that Oldhim week one really overperformed, even though he only made up about 7% ish of the metagame. He ended up topping almost 11% of events and winning. I've seen different numbers. I've seen 23 and 30. There's kind of like multiple sets of data, and it's not totally clear why there's a bit of a discrepancy. There's like a more detailed set of data that has slightly different numbers than the other set. It might just be that more events got added to
Posted.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it could just be that. But, anyways, Oldhim by far and away the best performing deck. Following that is Iyslander with 19% win conversion and 13% top eight conversion, and also pretty highly represented at 11% representation, which puts her as like one of the three most represented decks. So Iyslander and Oldhim doing extremely well. We actually see some top eights in the Battle Hardened Leeds as well as the Battle Hardened in New Jersey, which I think Leeds was 177 players, New Jersey was 130 players, and we saw Oldhim and Iyslander really, really excel. I think Leeds was 5 Oldhims and 3 Icelanders in top eight, and New Jersey was 3 Oldhim, 2 Iyslander, 2 Bravo, and a Briar. So the Guardians and Iyslander really, really doing well, especially in these longer events. But there were still a number of other decks that did well in PQs. So kind of after the Oldhim and Iyslander, we have Fi and Bravo making really good top eight conversions, with Fi at 15. No, that's his meta breakdown. Fi at 18% top eight conversion, which is fantastic, 18.8. But then going down a little bit in wins to 16.52, so slightly underperforming, but still very solid.
That
And
number.
then
Oh, let me just talk about that number real quick. It's once the top eight conversion number gets higher than 1/8, which is
like 12.5%.
12.5%. Yeah. So anytime there's a top eight conversion higher than 12.5%, the win percent conversion has to go down, unfortunately. Just because if there's two fives in the top eight, both can't win ever. So one will always lose and one would always, at least like if let's say five both gets to the finals, one would definitely win and one would definitely lose. So that's why the win percentage conversion always goes down slightly if it's over. Um, if there's like a high percentage of them that, if there's a high meta share, high top eight share, the wins will go down naturally because of that.
Oh yeah, I'm just talking about the win percentage though overall, not the top
Yeah.
eight to win. And we
Yes.
have
Yes.
actually seen in the past seasons like Starvo had a higher win percentage than
Then top
top eight
eight.
percentage.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Fi's doing fine, but just not quite matching his top 8%. So still really solid deck, but just like when you compare it to Oldhim with who has like 10%, 10.5% of top eights and then 22 or 23% of wins, you can tell that there's a difference there in how those two
Yeah,
decks are
that's
doing.
definitely an outlier. Oldhim is definitely one of the best decks in the format, from what we can see from the data.
Yeah, absolutely. And similarly, Iyslander going from 13% top eight to 19%, just really overperforming. And then most of the
Overperforming for
other
sure.
decks are relatively flat. So
Yeah.
Fi, pretty flat. Bravo doing pretty well, making 9% of top eights up from a 7.5% meta share, but only converting to 2.5% of the wins. So really kind of struggling to actually close out events and win, which I think kind of makes sense. Like his game plan's kind of linear. And I think when you start playing players that have a little more experience, like you would expect in top eight, they probably know how to deal with Bravo.
Yeah, and Bravo is one of those like higher variance decks in the format where when they do the thing they want to do, lining up disruption reds when they draw, two blue, red, and a block card, then Bravo becomes a very hard deck to beat. Whereas when they stumble once, which they can in top eight, it becomes very difficult for Bravo to win. So on average, it will probably lose one in every 3 or 4 games, which is why it makes it much more difficult to convert Bravo into wins.
Yeah. And I think overall, if you're wanting to do Guardian stuff and you have the experience on the deck, Oldhim is just the stronger choice. And a big part of it is having Crown of Seeds. It's true that a lot of lists are playing Stalagmite and not Crown of Seedsing every turn. They're playing a little more proactively, but you can still Crown of Seeds on your turn if you have one of those hands where maybe you've gotten tempo with like a Spinal Crush with a Pummel behind it or something, and then you draw an all blue hand, you have the chance to filter a little bit with Crown of Seeds, which gives him so much more flexibility. He also has like Channel Lake Frigid out of his blues, which is really solid. He can also just kind of utilize his blues really nicely. Like he has Ice React. He can play one card hand with Winter's Wail, which is a lot better than Bravo's one card hand of Anathos for 4. So I think Oldhim just overall like more flexible and more able to play hands of all sizes. Like he can play one card hand, he can play 5 card hands, and he's pretty happy with any of them for the most part.
Yeah, it really gets to leverage the skill with Oldhim more than Bravo.
Absolutely. I think other notable decks, Dash. Dash is a hero that we were pretty excited about, and a lot of people were. She made up almost 11% of the metagame, but then only making up about 8% of top eights, so falling off a little bit, and then 7.8% of wins. So Dash still solid and doing okay, but I think definitely underperforming the hype and probably in my books like notably beneath Oldhim, Iyslander, and Fi in terms of
Hmm.
performance.
Yeah, that's something we did get wrong for sure.
Yeah. And I think a lot of it is just that these aggressive Oldhim lists are really good into Dash. They're pretty good at going over the top, disrupting with Pummel and Endless Winters, and just kind of racing her down before she can set up all of her items. And if you're a super defensive Dash list, you can have a great matchup into Oldhim, but then you really struggle into the Fies and Briars and aggressive decks of the world. So I think she's kind of struggling to account for everything.
Also, Dash is not an easy deck to play. I was watching a couple of the Dash players around the PQ, and there are some times where I'm watching them and I'm like, oh, there was like a slightly better line here where you can save one card in your deck, or maybe one more damage here. Use a Teklo Foundry Heart to get a resource to push one more damage. I feel like Dash, really, you need to play very tight. You need to be playing very good. And it's not a autopilot deck like Fi is. So maybe that's also like a spot where people are struggling at, is like to realize her full potential, including cards like Harpoon, where that card you do need to know your opponent's deck inside and out. Not inside and out, but like relatively well to be able to pick the right card, the right timing, to know what card they kept in their hand so then you can really disrupt their hand. Because a lot of times with the Harpoon, you can only see 3 cards, not 4. And if you can really guess the 4th card of the hand, you can do damage to their hand.
Still like a really diverse field, kind of like what we were seeing in our PQs. Sitting around like 6 or 7%, we have Dromai, Briar, Dory, Lexi, Rhinar, all doing pretty decently, like roughly having the same meta share as top 8% as wins. So just doing totally solid, not really underperforming or overperforming, not a huge part of the meta, but you should probably expect to see them. So in a lot of ways, I think this is like kind of a cool metagame. You can almost play what you want to play. There have been like a few heroes not so represented, like Bolton and Viserai and Levia, but yeah, for the most part, it's pretty wide open, and I think more decks are viable than certainly any other time I've played Flesh and Blood.
Yeah, I think same. Yeah, we played about the same time, so I'm just really sad Arachne's not playable right now.
Going forward, what decks do you think? What heroes would you recommend to people for the last final week of ProQuest? Are there certain heroes that you're liking how they're positioned, or you think people should be picking up or expecting to see more of?
I don't think the metagame is going to shift at all. I think it's going to be very meta dependent on the local scene you're at. We talked about 4 PQs so far, and I think every single PQ had a slightly different scene with like a slightly favor towards different heroes. Um, so I think just picking the right hero for your metagame would be very good. If there's a lot of Phis, maybe playing a deck that beats Phi, so something like a Bravo or Oldhim, or if there's like a lot of Oldhims, something that gets underneath it, or actually, what beats Oldhim? Is there anything that really beats Oldhim right now?
Yeah, so I think part of the reason we're seeing Oldhim do so well and perform so well is that he kind of doesn't have bad matchups. A like turtle dash is really bad for you, but that deck really struggles into the aggro decks, like we mentioned. And I think in my testing, I have felt extremely favored on Iyslander into Oldhim, like 80-20, 90-10 sort of range. But I will say that I don't think that there are very many Icelanders that feel this way. And you can watch lots of footage of Battle Hardens, and there's lots of Icelanders losing to Oldhim in top eights of Battle Harden. So I think that while there may be some players really, really comfortable that really understand that matchup and can make it pretty miserable for Oldhim, I think the reality is in your PQ, you're probably not going to have to face that. And if you do have to face that, you probably already know about it.
Yeah, that seems fair. I think I I I am a Phi player right now. I'm playing Phi for the next PQ I'm gonna go to this weekend. I'm 95% bringing Phi. There is a small chance that I bring Dash, but I will most likely on Phi.
Yeah, and I think Fi is totally a reasonable choice. And I think if you're somebody who mostly has experience on one hero, or maybe there's only really one deck you own, you don't necessarily have to counter the meta in the way that Jay was talking about with changing decks. You could also just counter the meta in terms of how you're choosing to build your sideboard and build your deck, and sort of look for those small edges. Like I identified successfully on the first week that we would have a bunch of Lexis and Dromais, so the Command and Conquers made a whole lot of sense. And then in the second week, I was feeling like those Command and Conquers weren't so useful in the sideboard. So sort of if you can really read what you're going to see and adapt accordingly, I think you can be really rewarded in this metagame.
Okay. Do you want to move on to the Battle Hardened?
I think it's actually okay. I sort of talked about it already.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I guess notably in the battle hardened, like a lot of Oldhim and Icelander. I sort of mentioned 5 Oldhim, 3 Icelander in leads, and it was an Oldhim finals, Oldhim winning, of course. And then top 8 in battle hardened New Jersey was 3 Oldhim, 2 Icelander, 2 Bravo, and a Briar. And I believe it was once again an Oldhim mirror with Oldhim winning. So um, Ice and Oldhim doing extremely well in those events. But the if you see the metagame breakdowns, again, pretty diverse. Dash Icelander pretty well represented. Oldhim a little bit less so, but still up there, and then a whole bunch of everything else. So in a lot of ways, kind of mirroring what we see. But I think that those Ice heroes, maybe with like a few more rounds to play, have sort of been showing their edge a little bit more in those big events.
Yeah, fair enough. And what I'm most curious about for this episode is you started right before the show started. We started talking about this hyper defensive Oldhim list that was doing well. So who is this? What is this? Where did this come out?
So in New Zealand, a player named Dennis Zhang ended up winning a PQ. Dennis is an Oldhim main through and through. The first I've played him at Battle in New Jersey, and he was on Oldhim, and he had like I think he had the Oakenold mat, cold foil equipment, and Oldhim sleeves, and I was like, this guy really likes Oldhim. And I believe he's almost exclusively played Oldhim. Like he just adores that deck, and that's like what he like. He's a just like Kale is like the Bravo one trick. I think Dennis is like the Oldhim one trick. He might know how to play other heroes, but he definitely plays like almost exclusively Oldhim. Um, so the deck that he played, I guess I'll say that New Zealand's meta has a lot of Guardians. And the deck that he was playing had a little bit of a unique game plan into I'm not exactly sure like how he was sideboarding in all his matchups, and I don't have the full deck list, but I know that Iyslander chat has been complaining about this deck a lot. And basically the idea is he plays energy potions, a whole bunch of life gain. So I think like Sigil of Solace, maybe I wouldn't be surprised if there's like Sun Kiss and like some of the other healing bomb, like the 0 cost gain life. I think he has Heart of Findle in the deck. I was hearing things like he was like at 60 at the end of the game kind of thing. So a lot of life gain. Exposed to the elements to hit Striders, and playing Imperial Warhorn as well as some remembrances to buy back Imperial Warhorn. So maybe we should read that card.
Sure, I got it right here.
Okay.
So Imperial Warhorn is a card, Majestic from Dynasty. It's a generic action item, so this does use your action point to play it. It pitches for red and costs 2. And it is a legendary card, so you can only have one Imperial Warhorn in your deck. And it has an activate ability action, pay 1 resource, destroy Imperial Warhorn, choose any number of heroes. That's including yourself, you could. It says each of them chooses an ally, aura, item, or a landmark permanent they control. Destroy each permanent chosen this way. If you are royal, and it says if you are royal, instead you choose the permanents.
Yeah. So the idea behind this card's definitely slow, costs 2 resources to play and your action. Then you have to spend another action and a resource to activate it. So definitely really slow. And then you're trying to remembrance it back and you only have 1. You do have Crown to help you dig, but it's a very, very slow game plan, which makes sense with all the life gain. And the idea behind it is against Dash, they do get to choose the items, but typically they play 5 items. If you can blow up 3 of them, you should be able to win pretty handily from there. I know he's playing Earth cards in the deck for sure, because the end game of this deck is he plays Oakenold still with Earth cards, and I believe that the end game, even in the Guardian Mirror, is to play Oakenold 9 times, which should be enough to close out the game.
What?
So
That's the plan?
apparently, I think he also has So Tomorrow, so I guess technically there's like a theoretical 12
Wait, how do you
Oakenolds.
Oakenold 9 times?
Well, Remembrance can technically buy back 3 Oakenolds. You have 2 of them, so that's you have each remembrance is 3, so that's 6 Oakenolds plus the 3 original in your deck, and then 3 more from So Tomorrow. So that's the end game of this deck. um,
Wow.
yeah. So, and then I guess the other notable thing about Imperial Warhorn against Iyslander is that because Frost Hex enters under your control, you can destroy Frost Hex, and then they still have to choose and destroy like Amulet of Ice, Insidious Chill, or Energy Potion. They do get to pick which one. You don't get to choose like Aura and then make them. Yeah, they get to choose what permanent they want, but it's still pretty good. You're blowing up 2 permanents every time. And the idea is you just run them out of win conditions. I think he was just not, from what I understand, he was just not attacking to make it like harder for the Iyslander to cycle, and also to not create windows. So yeah, I believe he said that he had 5 concessions. I don't know how many of those are due to time or just people giving up because they were out of win conditions. I'm not really sure, but he did mention that the games are extremely long and you need to you need to play very, very quickly for a deck like this to work. And I think your opponents also have to play pretty quickly. Like if you have a metagame where you know that you have slow players, I definitely would not take this deck. You're just going to go to time.
This deck blows my mind a little bit. Makes me want to play this deck.
Somehow knew you would be a fan with because you liked your like 3rd or 4th cycle Pulse of Eisenloft, Oaken Oldhim, and Starvo decks.
I do. Like the Star Wars deck I was playing, I just didn't naturally fuse at all. Like it just, I had to. I always pitch stacked my Starvo fuses, and try and like block out and Sigil Solace into second cycle. So, wow, like this deck, I'm a fan. I'm already a fan. I need to buy Imperial Warhorn.
Yeah, and I know that I hear that Dennis is a expert pitch stacker. Like I think he had to like I think he beat Matt Rogers in the finals of his PQ, or like I know he's beaten Matt Rogers in PQs before because they're in the same scene, and I believe they're all in Auckland. I think so. Anyways, they're all in New Zealand. I know that. I guess I'll kind of comment. I have a couple of comments about this deck. First off, I have played into something similar as Iyslander. I played against Energy Potion, Expose, Warhorn Remembrance, and Sigil of Solace, but not any more life gain than that. I found the games pretty winnable. I felt like, but I think that you could definitely catch people off guard. And there was one game though that I lost where the person that I was testing with got Warhorn right away, and then blew up my Frostex that I had opened with, and then saw Remembrance very, very quickly, and then got another Warhorn very quickly, and I just could never gain traction. But there is like a little bit of a variance factor to this deck, because if you just like if Warhorn's your 40th card in the deck, for example, I think it has Mage Master boots to speed things up a little bit, but like you still have to take like probably your whole turn to Warhorn. You might eat some arcane damage off of it.
Wait, you can just play Tomo Fandle
Iyslander,
too, though.
I
This
guess
deck
you
has
could
to.
if you really want more life gain. It might have Toma Findal, I'm not sure. I
It
just know it has
has
a
to,
bunch of
right?
life gain. It's possible, yeah. It would make sense. I don't know. If you have
Yeah,
Mage
like
Master
this.
boots already, I would think that you probably run one.
I would assume you just play them if your planets do not attack them anyways. You don't have to Tomo Fendel into an attack. You can just Tomo Fendel gain 2 Arsenal go.
Yeah, fair enough. So definitely an option. I think I have questions like I don't think that this deck has a fantastic Fi matchup. Um, Even though you have all the life gain, like Fi is just such a hard deck to block out, and you're not going to have. I think you're going to be lacking in some of like the disruptive tools if you're like this. So definitely like a bit of a metagame call. Other comment I have about this: the games as Iyslander, that matchup is not especially fun. And I wouldn't be surprised if this picks up traction to see action taken against Remembrance. I remember at Worlds they kind of mentioned that Remembrance was a card that I think Brian Gottlieb or one of the devs didn't like especially. And certainly, I don't know that sitting there and attacking and breaking all your opponent's win conditions is like really what they're hoping for in Flesh and Blood, but I don't know. I obviously have no inside information,
No,
but I wouldn't
Yuki,
be.
you have to stop. You have to stop. You have to stop. This is like premium Flesh and Blood experience here. Like this deck right now is just like triggering my lantern control like soul. Like I want to build this deck and bring it to the PQ now. But I know if I do this, I'm not gonna top 8 because I'm gonna go into time. Like the
Yeah,
players in like the players that's gonna be playing in Kelowna or sorry Kamloops is not gonna play fast enough for me to play this for me to play this deck.
fair enough. Yeah, I think you definitely need the right metagame and the right player base to be able to take a deck like this. And you need to be very, very fast yourself.
Oh my god, I need this deck list. Who is this, Dennis? How do I get contact with
Dennis
this guy?
Zhang. I believe he has Twitter. I can probably get you in touch with him.
Please, Yuki, if you can. If you can get the deck list. I want this deck list now.
Yeah, I was looking for it before the show for a few minutes trying to dig it up, but I haven't been able to find the exact one. But I've seen screenshots of people playing on it, playing against similar lists on Talishar. So is definitely
No,
something
no,
people
no,
are
no.
trying out.
It's no. If you're telling me if what you just told me was true and Dennis is a one trick, his 80, every card in his 80 has a meaning. I need that list.
Look, I'm not saying that Dennis's list isn't like particularly good and that you shouldn't go with his. I'm just commenting that
There are other variants.
I might think about this deck because I've seen multiple screenshots of people playing against it on Talishar. I've seen people discussing it, so I don't know that I don't think it's gonna be super popular because it's not a playstyle for everyone and it does have some drawbacks like going to time. But I might think a little bit about how you want to approach this matchup. From Icelander's perspective, one thing I've heard is if you see an early Warhorn from their side, you can pitch your Ice Eternals and then try to play them all close together to give them less time to remembrance everything back, and then hopefully you can, or sorry, your Frost X's, and then hopefully you can get them that way. But yeah, I don't know. Worth thinking about.
Hmm. Hmm. So, but oh my god, this deck is amazing. Like you get because if you are starting to do that, the Oldhim player also gets to see this too, right? Like if the pitch stack is it's all
It's
public
true.
information.
It's true.
Wow, I'm man, I want to play this
But
deck
what
so
if
bad now.
but what if the real answer is that Icelander can play Remembrance?
Holy,
Oh, also, I heard a story that I think Dennis made a post somewhere that I think the Icelander he played in one of the rounds, maybe it was top 8, Arsenal to sink below, and then he just like never attacked him, and the sink below was there for the entire game. So, um, be careful, Arsenaling sink below. We saw the same thing in top 8 of Worlds. So just in general, be careful of Arsenaling sink below.
yeah, guys, what are you doing? Arsenaling a defense reaction? That's crazy. What if they don't attack you ever again? You can't. It gets stuck in there forever.
It does.
Okay, I think is there anything else you want to talk about for this ProQuest season?
No, I think that's it. I think we're in like overall a really healthy metagame. We do have a BNR coming up. They just announced it like a day or two ago. It's going to come January 30th, so immediately following ProQuest. I don't know if that's live for the callings that are happening the next week, but interesting if it is, and good luck to everybody. If there's action taken, I don't even know. It could just be no changes. We do see the ice decks definitely overperforming a little bit in those battle hardens and in the metagame data, but overall, meta's in a pretty healthy spot. And my personal take is that Oldhim and Iyslander are fundamentally pretty fair decks. Like they're playing mid range where they're blocking and attacking and interacting, and they seem like okay. Like every metagame is going to have a best deck, right? And they seem like okay decks to be on top. I think it's probably a little bit more healthy that these decks are on top than when we had like the stubby hammers, combo fi, kill you on turn 2, or
The
Who
chain
else do we have?
meta.
Starvo, Chain, even Prism to some degree. Like I think there were other more problematic best decks than Iyslander and Oldhim, so I don't hate it. Maybe they could do something small. I don't know what that is. Yeah, so I'll be curious to see if they do anything, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's no action.
Is this just because you play Iyslander? Is this why you're okay with it?
Um, no, I just think the metagame's honestly pretty healthy. Like this is just the healthiest metagame we've had. I've heard some people got like really creative. They're like, maybe we ban like Stalagmite, Channel Lake Frigid, Art of War, and Channel Mount Heroic. And I'm just like, oh, it would be interesting. I don't know if we need to do that, but it would certainly shake things up. But
Then
yeah, I
maybe
think no bans is okay too.
yeah. I'm assuming no bans as well. I can't think of a card that should be banned. And I called Autumn's Touch. I called Stubby. What else did I call? I called one more card.
Pulse?
Uh
No, I
no,
don't
I
think you
called
did.
Duskbane, but that was well, everyone knew
Yeah.
that one, right? Like
Yeah,
literally that
everyone
card
knew
got
that card was
released and
possible.
it's like I'm playing this week 1 and it's going to get banned week 2. I was wrong. It got banned week 0.
Yeah, it got banned before the set was out. Pretty funny. Yeah, if I'm being honest, I'd be okay with Oldhim getting hit because then maybe I'll feel like playing Lexi. I think she's like really close. We've seen her picking up some wins, especially week 2. I feel like I've heard quite a few Lexis winning in chat or even one at the PQ that you played at. So I think she's in like a pretty good spot. And just Oldhim is just a little bit too annoying for me to play against. But um, yeah, so if I was being truly selfish, I would say that yeah, hit Oldhim. But truthfully, I think it's probably okay.
No, you know what? I want them to hit Pummel. I'm so okay them banning Pummel and then just give me back Pulse of Eisenloft.
Not biased at all. You heard it here.
Not biased at all. Just ban Pummel, ban Spinal Crush. Just give me back Pulse of Eisenloft.
So none of this proactive game plan. You just want to sit there and block, and then
Yeah,
Oaken Oldhim in the late game.
yeah. I just want to be able to like set up nice 2-card hands, 3-card hands, and like play like 3rd cycle, 4th cycle. Be like, oh, I want to be in a spot again where 25 minutes in the game, I'm like, okay, your pitch stack not good enough to beat my pitch stack. It's just like ideal spot.
Yeah,
But at the same
it's fair
time, I
enough.
hate Remembrance because they shuffled their deck.
Clearly, it just needs to put 3 cards to the bottom, right?
Oh my god! If it just puts 3 cards to the bottom, then it's fine because like the players that aren't pitch stacking properly, they go like blue, 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 blue. You can beat those players. But then when they go like pitch like 7 blues in a row and they play Remembrance and shuffle like 3 reds in and it gets shuffled in, and it's just like their ratio is like back to normal. It's ridiculous. It's like unfair.
There you go. Everybody enjoys different things about Flesh and Blood is a customizable card game, and everybody gets to enjoy it differently. So, you know,
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Jay enjoys his. Well, we've been talking about it, and I enjoy my wizards and rangers. Anyways, anything else before we wrap up here? I think that's pretty good.
No, I think that's a good episode.
All right. So thanks for listening to our show, everyone. We'd love to hear from you in the comments what has been doing well in your metagame. What heroes have you been taking into ProQuest? Are there, certain decks that you're expecting to do well or dreading playing against? And just like, what are your overall thoughts on the metagame? Would love to hear. You can get in touch with us on Twitter. You can message me at Yuki Bender, or you can find Jay at UetaJ. You can also email us at onthebauble@gmail.com. And if you have any questions, feedback, or comments, we'd love to hear about that. And until next time, good luck at all of your ProQuests, and we'll touch base with you after the final week of ProQuests.
Do we need a sign off today?
I don't think so. I think you could either move some stuff to the end or just like not do it because we went kind of long.
Yeah, well, it's not that long, but like it's like I don't really have anything to talk about. I felt like all the stories was in the episode today.
Yeah, like I guess what I mean is like I felt like Dennis's list.
Yeah, that felt like a
It felt kind of sign offy, like it was like metagame-ish, but then like at some point, it became a sign off when we were talking about.
yeah. Please ban remembrance.
Yeah, yeah. At some point, it got which is fine. It was fun,
Yeah.
but
Okay,
I
so no
think
sign off is good.
to that.
Makes it easier for me too.
You want Dennis's Decklist.
Oh my god. If I look at it and if it looks beautiful, I might actually play it at Kamloops. You know the problem with going to Kamloops though? Weather forecast: snow Thursday, snow Friday, snow Saturday. Okay, I'm gonna end the episode here.